coming up for me in a second to land these Vikings. I do lose one Viking, but I kill the queen.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. It's probably a fair trade, but I mean, all in all, you think about the cost of a Viking: 150 minerals, 75 gas. So far, by the end of this, I do believe you've taken out a queen and 4 or 5 overlords, which is about a total of 750 minerals that you're forcing him to spend. So it's probably worth it in a way.
Probably a good deal. As you can see, Vikings landing to try to do a little more damage. Vikings actually are fairly effective against queens. They have considerably good DPS, and he's being forced to pull drones off the line to fight. I'd like you guys to note that positioning behind the mineral line is keeping his drones from getting a good surround.
I like two things about this. I like the positioning, and I like the mule call down to repair. Keeping them alive as long as possible allows them to just maximize damage, and this is probably the single most damaging harass you have done this entire game. This hurt him so bad.
I mean, this Viking right here is just racking up the kills. He is at 14 right now, 15. He is a captain Viking, something you very rarely see. 16 kills now,
Indeed.
and 17 just before he's taken out, but definitely a lot of damage.
A lot of damage, and I like the fact this is when you need to push. You have done so much damage. He's probably building drones right now. This is when you need to hit him.
Yep. Siege tanks being sieged up outside of range. I do a scan to see what exactly is in front of me.
I would have liked to see the scan before you moved off just to make sure, but all in all, good, safe play. I like the fact you're allowing the siege tanks to do most of the damage by running in and pulling him, you know, kind of forcing him to come in into the range of your siege tanks where you can just dominate.
Definitely a successful beginning to my attack thus far. I'd also like you guys to note I'm streaming units to the battle, keeping the pressure on because I have the advantage.
Yeah, that's really important. When you do this, you want to constantly have reinforcements streaming, and that is how the Terran army is powerful when you have a lot of units. So you want to make sure that you get them those units.
Lastly, I'd like you guys to note the tanks. I'm moving them 2 at a time, as I have 4, in order to continuously have tank support for my infantry.
Yeah, tank micro is really important to learn as Terran. It doesn't matter what matchup it is. You need to learn how to walk siege tanks so that you're not unsieging all at once, because that can be really, really devastating.
Devastating indeed. In fact, the siege tanks have forced Freeze to call a GG after a 16-minute and 48-second game. Like you guys did note, even though the Spire did pop, the Mutalisks were unable to harass.
Indeed, you had too many Marines. He didn't have enough. Well, actually, he did have enough minerals, but off one base, he could only pop 7 at once. 7 is not going to be enough to really damage you when you have this many Marines. It's when they get in a large ball that they just roll over everything. But like I say, a Zerg cannot outproduce you off one base. They have to be on at least 2 to be in good standing with you.
Definitely, and that's why taking out that hatchery is so very key if you are a Terran player.
Yeah, your goal, I would say, when you go for harassment, there are several key things that you want to do depending on what type of harassment you are indeed going to try to pull off. If you're doing got ahead of myself. My tongue got ahead of me. If you're doing Hellion harass, go for workers. That is what they're best against. Fry as many workers as you can. Now, if you're going to be doing a little bit stronger push, maybe Hellion Marauder, try to go for either the Queen or that hatchery. Take down that hatchery, and you are in amazing shape against Zerg. If you're going for Viking harass, like you saw Matt do, go for the Overlords. Do something to try to maximize the damage. But I'd say probably the strongest push I've come up with so far is the Hellion Marauder push to try to take down a hatchery.
And it is very effective against a whole lot of Zerg builds. So I think last thing I really want to talk about are things for me to improve on, because obviously I'm not perfect, and I always want to see if there's any advice you would like to leave me with.
There's a few. For the most part, your macro was okay during the game because you were so focused on the micro. And this is one thing that I want new players to realize is it's really hard if you're not pro to macro and micro at the same time. I can't do it. If I am microing Hellions, my minerals are going to build up because I'm not going to be able to leave them alone in order to go back to my base and build things. So it's kind of a fine line you can walk, but there are things you can do to set yourself up so that if indeed this push did not succeed, you could come back with even a stronger one. Like, for example, your barracks. You have two that aren't teched. I would say that you could tech either one of these, maybe put reactors on both for mass marine production. You can reactor this starport here for more Viking / medevac production. You can throw down an armory in another factory so that you can add in Thors into your siege tanks. I would say that you could beat down these rocks and even expand again because your minerals are so high. You might as well put it into something. It's just there's little things like this you can do to set yourself up so that if indeed this push does not fail or this push does not succeed, you're not thrown for a loop. You can come back even stronger and nail the game shut with a second big strong push.
Will do, Winter. One last question from me. I was wondering if you were to take your third for, like, if my push had ended up in, maybe killing the hatchery even, but then being forced back, would you say I should expand to I would call it my third, or should I go for the gold?
It kind of gets into how do you take your third, and that's a really critical decision for most macro games, especially if you have not been able to do damage like you did. In this situation, you have taken down his hatchery. He's not going to be able to outproduce you off one base. You have control of the map. You have units sitting outside of his base. Even if, for example, let's say he were able to beat you off, your push wasn't as strong as it was, he pushed you back. Even so, you would probably still be safe taking the gold if you wanted to. I don't like that. I prefer to take my third at what I would call the third natural. I bust down these rocks, go in and throw it up right there because it's very easy to defend. It's along your reinforcement pathway. You can pull units off. You can defend. It's close. I prefer when you take a third, the thing you need to realize is start thinking about how easy it is to defend. Because if you lose your third, you can lose the game in a macro-oriented game where you and your opponent are on equal footing. So if you expand to the gold, it's a lot harder to defend. So map control becomes critically important when you're trying to think about taking your third. But I would say take your third natural. It's a little bit safer, a little bit easier, and you seem to be going for a mech build anyway, so gas is going to be the determining factor with this kind of when you're doing heavy mech play, and you have enough minerals from that to really set yourself up for a good strong push. So I would say take the third natural, but if you do want to take the gold, you have to make sure you maintain map control in the middle to make sure he doesn't slip around you.
Will do. Thank you for the help, WinterBorn. I would like to thank Clan RH for allowing me to have WinterBorn on my show, on my cast, and help me out. And I would like to thank you personally, WinterBorn. You have been instrumental in my StarCraft as a whole and helping, really bring the forums and the community together.
You're welcome, but don't don't underestimate your help too. Like you help me out a lot in the help a newbie thread, and you give good advice too. So together we have started to pioneer the forums, and there's a lot of other people that also give advice that we need to give shouts out to. And you guys all rock. Keep learning, keep getting better, and keep helping.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, WinterBorn. I will take it out. I am Top Madness. I'm the voice of Top StarCraft, and I am signing out.